It's been a while since I've made a video. I've been lazy. I'll try to get back in the swing of things. This video is about prescriptive versus descriptive language. And the very first thing to say off the bat is that the names themselves are a little bit misleading. Both prescriptive and descriptive are supposed to describe reality. The catch is that prescriptive also creates or at least observes rules. Now, a little bit about language and thought itself. This is not going to be a shocker for most of you, but language is a symbol for reality. Whenever I say the word tuppence, it symbolizes my dog Tuppence because she and I both agree that word symbolizes her, the bit of reality that is her. Whenever I say tree, you and I agree that we're referencing the bit of reality that's tree. But we could just as easily say that a tree is a zargon and a collection of trees is a frog. And if that's the case, then I can say that I really enjoy all the zargons in this frog. And that's a statement that makes sense because that's just how language works. It's inherently descriptive and something that we socially agree to. There's a little bit of problem, though, that language and thought are connected. It's something called the Sapir-Whortan hypothesis. You might have heard it a while back, where the ancients did not really have a word for the color blue and couldn't identify the color blue. Without a word, they could not conceptualize the idea very well. I'm going to do a very poor job of explaining it. It's called the Sapir-Whortan hypothesis, if you want to look it up on Wikipedia. But this is a problem because reality is not a socially agreed upon thing. Whether we agree or not, reality still is. But language is a socially agreed thing, and if one can affect our perception of reality, that can be a problem. And that brings us to the extreme example of newspeak from 1984. You can't really conceptualize the idea. It's hard to conceptualize the idea of freedom if there's not a word for it. You consolidate beautiful, inspiring, well-crafted. All these ideas just get consolidated into the term double plus good. So you lose nuance and detail in your thinking. That allows you to make slavery freedom and war peace. And with that sort of control and just being able to describe what you want, well, I could define the tire as my target, and I've either hit it or not, or I can just define as whatever I hit my target. That's just the power of descriptive language. But that's 1984. It's not necessarily reality. But there's reason to be a little bit concerned. I'm not the first to point out that hot can also mean cool, that good can mean bad, and bad can mean good. Like the 1980s, 1990s Nintendo Power Glove commercial, "It's so bad," meaning good. Or something, a skateboard trick can be sick, meaning good. That's not really a problem because within context, people really know what you mean. However, that sort of concept drift does affect the way people think over time. I'm not the sort of person to deride someone misspelling a word because I still know what they mean in context. But just as for me to be able to identify the correct spelling of a word, there has to be a correct spelling of the word. If there weren't, then I couldn't identify words at all. There also has to be a correct meaning of a word. Otherwise, again, we can't communicate. And that leads us to the idea of prescriptive language, where it creates rules, categories. Reality is pretty complicated, and the idea of categorization or taxonomy does kind of simplify reality to probably a degree it's not meant to be simplified, so it does create its own inaccuracies. I'm probably running up against my time on this phone, so my next thing is going to be about prescriptive language.